Rhode Island shooting yesterday, horrible tragedy, scared a bunch of kids at a skating rink in Rhode Island. And allegedly, the New York Post and others, a few others, reporting that the shooter is trans. And this is, I don't know how many shootings of late have involved trans people. This is not about being bigoted against trans people. It's not about saying all shootings are committed by trans people, but it seems like a relevant fact in the way it would be reported among some other categorizations, and the pattern seems relevant. It seems like something our society should be discussing, not with bigotry, but just to try to understand why are we having mass shootings by trans people. Just it seems like a basic thing, and yet I read about 20 stories in the Rhode Island media, New York Times, Washington Post. They all said we don't know anything about the shooter. Some said the shooter had two different names.
Yeah, that was the New York Times.
Yeah.
Went by two names.
Yeah, but both were male names. So it's a little confusing. But Larry,
wasn't one of them Morgana? I think that's what
no,
name is.
I don't think so. Well, I may have misread it. I thought they were both male names. But Larry, what's the deal here? Is why wouldn't this be something discussed in all the media?
Yeah. There's two things at play here. One of them has to do with, and I think that it's a genuinely appropriate concern that gay rights groups for decades, most specifically GLAAD, which is a great group. I knew people who ran GLAAD in Los Angeles years ago, who went through a lot of work and a lot of effort to change the way gay people were depicted in the media, in the news media, but also in pop culture. And they did a great job of it, I think. There was a lot of stereotypes, a lot of negative stereotypes and horrible things that were done in terms of how gay people were depicted over the years. There is a concern about depicting people within the LGBTQ community with broad stereotypes. So I think that's still a lesson learned within the news media, but that shouldn't get in the way of the facts involved. The secondary thing, which I think is really overriding all of those efforts, is the fact that to tell this story, you have to draw a line between the growing transgender or the exploding transgender movement over the last decade that we've all experienced and seen that somehow comes out of nowhere, connect that with mental illness and maybe even pharmaceuticals that have been associated with the transgender and transitions. And to suggest that if you're a transgender, you have a mental illness or that there are mental illness concerns that should be looked at is absolutely forbidden. You are a bigot if you bring that up, or at least in many circles you are. That's my opinion.
Kevin, thank you. Kevin.
Yeah, I agree certainly with Larry on the GLAAD front. I'm glad you said that, Larry. I think there was a few years ago, Congress had a committee hearing. It was run by the Republicans, but they had folks on kind of both sides of this issue where they talked about the science, the mentality, some of the drugs involved. They had people both pro-transgender, folks that had transitioned that regretted that. And it was an open, honest conversation. And I think we need more of that. I commended the Republicans at the time for having that hearing, taking the bigotry out of it, but actually getting to some level of understanding of what this community is all about, the science behind it. And I think we need more of that in terms of this kind of coverage. And I would suggest that we have more of those hearings that are in the public spotlight. That don't just get lost in the trans athlete debate and things like that, but let's actually have a reckoning kind of conversation as a community of people about these folks.
Prediction tonight, most shootings, given unfortunately the nature of way shootings are covered, I doubt this will get much more national coverage if it weren't for this. Do you think the fact that this is part of a pattern will be reported in the legacy media today, tomorrow, or just they'll move on? Larry?
They'll move on. They'll refer to it as a domestic dispute.
Yeah. Kevin?
Most likely move on, but obviously more conservative media outlets will certainly talk about this, as they've done with the shooting in Minnesota and Tennessee.
They say that something that's easy is like a walk in the park. Well, easier than a walk in the park, hit the subscribe button, be part of the two-way community, never miss an episode, be part of our conversations. Thank you for your service to America.
And don't forget, you can now listen to the morning meeting and Two Way Tonight on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.